Welcome to another exciting Breezing with Vera and Lauren Lepre. Like the mailman, he delivers. He's brought us the group Wisdom in Chains. We also have the cast of Dogfight the Musical playing now soon at Kelsey Theater, Mercer County Community College, and we're on Facebook Live.
What about our other guest here?
Chucky.
Yes, Chucky is going to be sitting in on this episode.
I'm so excited. I had a minor organism. I'm trying to be nice and everything. But let's start again. First of all, the show's doing great. Thank you. You elevated again. The numbers are staggering. And we have a group here that has staggering numbers.
Yes,
Some of their videos, as we see in the back, have over 400,000 hits. Cry Havoc, Let Loose a Primal Scream, but the truth of Wisdom in Chains. Hi, who are we talking to? Take the lead. I have nothing more to say, really. But,
I'm Rich. I play guitar in the band, and I love that intro. That was great.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
you got the right stuff. My name is Joe. I do lead vocals for Wisdom in Chains. Thanks for having us.
Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so Adam and the rest of the Princeton world out there and anybody from the hardcore scene watching, happy to have Wisdom in Chains on this show. So for anybody not in the hardcore scene, could you just explain a little bit what the band is all about? Explain Wisdom in Chains. Your origin.
What we're about?
Yes.
We're a hardcore band. It's very simple. We're a hardcore band. We grew up listening to hardcore bands like Agnostic Front and Madball, Killing Time, Cro-Mags, and that's what we do. Sick of it all. Hardcore is an addictive thing. If the listeners aren't familiar with hardcore, definitely Google hardcore music, and there's a long, rich history of incredible bands from most major cities in the U.S. and now all over the world. There's hardcore bands, but it's a very in-your-face, truthful form of rock and roll, and we find it very cathartic.
Yeah, it's like you always hear that term. It's like a lifestyle, but it is. You know.
Yep.
You know, you're involved with it. It's not the sound of the band. One time it was the sound of the band. You could pick out a hardcore band by the sound. Now the sounds are real broad from left to right, a lot of metal influences, the punk influences, but it's the lifestyle, you know. And you're seeing a lot of bands like Code Orange, like Power Trip coming from the hardcore scene now, getting a lot of recognition, play. You know, it's with the internet and with different kind of methods of distribution, since nobody's buying CDs and stuff like that anymore. The word's getting out easier because it's such an underground thing for so long, you know. But it's good, man.
So you're finding yourself a home in many locations. You're welcome. You're going on a current tour. Where are you headed off to? What venues?
We leave on Friday, and we land in Amsterdam, and I think we drive to Eindhoven.
First show is Eindhoven in the Netherlands. This tour is kind of a short one, maybe 10 shows, with our friends, a band called No Turning Back, that's from the Netherlands, and Knuckle Dust from the UK, from London.
Yeah.
And our good friend Strength for a Reason from Northeast PA.
And all three of those bands have been together over 20 years apiece.
Yeah.
So it's, you know,
you were
there's
in
longevity.
You were in the Strength for a Reason.
I was in Strength for a Reason.
I was at Strength for a show too. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he was the drummer.
Yes.
Joe played drums, but this is a tour package of friends, all like a bunch of guys together on a bus, hitting key spots in Europe. A couple like key spots would be like Eindhoven. The first thing is a festival. The Sound of Revolution Fest. And hitting the major cities like Paris, Berlin, like almost like when you said you feel at home in different places, Berlin, Paris, London. We're not hitting London on this tour, I don't think, but
I know we have a show in Austria. We have a show in Switzerland.
Yeah,
it's at this point. Though?
Yeah, at this point, when you go to those cities, you see your old friends.
Big
and it's
brotherhood.
Like,
we're a big family.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a lot of new faces too. Fortunately, otherwise you couldn't keep going back. But yeah, definitely you feel at home in a lot of different places. Only if you do right by the scene. If you play the scene wrong and you take advantage of the scene, then if you're not welcome in hardcore, it's a rough scene to be on.
Yep.
You know, you'll catch beatings wherever you go.
But what's doing wrong though?
Doing wrong would be like, let's say you're not a person of your word. Let's say
if you're using hardcore as a stepping stone to something that you perceive to be greater than that, it's happened before. You see bands try to leave hardcore and become a mainstream pop band almost, and then it fails, and they try to come back into hardcore, and it's hard. Not welcome.
The poser. I mean, the door gets shut.
And the collective
Yeah, one
mind,
of us now.
the
Yep.
collective hive mind, as our friend Scott Ebanks says, the collective hive mind of hardcore and punk rock decides what flies in the scene.
Yeah.
So
And you know, since a lot of people know each other, it's hard to get away with things. It's like in the metal scene, which is that's a great scene
And-
too, but it's real. It's professional. They have lawyers and a lot of management, and they're looking for that next step. They'll play a club and they'll take some abuse from the club owner because he's in a bad mood, and they'll just it's business as usual. But with a hardcore band, it's different. So maybe that's why hardcore bands don't reach a certain level, because there's a lot of ethics involved. And if you do the wrong thing, you could take a shot and leave and try a different route, but you might not come back.
In a way,
with good
you're
terms.
freer though too.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. And we found out at this point you could do it yourself. You don't need these imaginary people in suits in some office somewhere giving you a phone call telling you where to go. You could do it all on your own at this point,
And the word DIY, do it yourself. That's been a staple in our scene for a long time. You book the band, you everything. You book the location. We make it all happen ourselves.
even the way the bands form, most bands that I know formed of groups of friends that go to shows together
Organically, and they meet.
Yeah,
and
and you
mix.
say, "Oh, we love this." My first band ever, I formed after my first show ever. Like I saw Sick of It All at City Gardens in Trenton.
Oh, I remember City. There's a documentary. It's a classic place in
Yeah.
Trenton. It closed.
Yep.
Yeah, so I saw Sick of It All, and immediately, like that night on the way home from the show, me and our bass player now in Wisdom in Chains, he was also at that show. He was in my first band also. And we had my older brother was in the band. A bunch of us, we formed our first band on the way home from my first show, because I said, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to do now. I need to be in a hardcore band.
And Joe actually made a song about that called Chasing the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And the dragon logo is Sick of It All's logo, like that Asian dragon.
Oh, it's not chasing heroin.
No, a lot of people think so though, and they
Well,
always
it's kind of a double
yeah.
a double entendre. What's
Yeah,
that
I think
mean?
it was.
Am I saying something I don't
You are.
understand? I don't, so a double meaning. There's a few different levels of meanings in that song, but that's definitely one of them. I'm trying to relate the feeling I get from hardcore, like chasing the first high,
like that first show you saw.
That first, maybe a junkie might feel like it's unexplainable unless you felt it yourself.
Right, and you want to reclaim it.
So that first show was one of the most profound experiences of my life outside of having my first son.
Right.
Like that was such a profound, life-changing thing. That first show, in many ways, was as profound
Found who
because
you were.
it set me on a path to here.
No, a life that you seem to be eating royally and
Pinnacle.
eating the bone and the marrow and everything.
Yeah.
I want to get in Lauren's way, but what about the tension between commerce, creative freedom, family? I mean, how do you? It's a hard balance. You still got to make a living. You got kids. You want to clothes. You want to wear clothes. How do you? Isn't it
It's
hard?
a hard balance. It's tough, but you just have to be willing to work. That's most things in life. If you want it, you have to be willing to work.
Yeah, the level we do it on is we work full-time jobs. We never took like the chance and totally committed and just went with it. Some people we know did, and some are, that's what they do for a living. They have great livings doing it, and some, it didn't work out. They went back to the workforce. We do both. And we could make money on the road, not a ton of money, so it's not a big hit when we're out, but we'll try to play key shows instead of just staying out there. Then we come back, and he has a family. He's got to have the insurance and all that stuff. So, we could at this point we work full-time jobs for years, but also tour 3-4 times a year and play key shows that could keep us relevant. But it's also about you got to write the songs at the right time. You got to put out material.
Right.
That's because luckily with the internet, you could reach people with that. They don't think you're dead. Like, whatever happened to that band? Oh, something new coming out.
Same thing with film.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got to work full time too. I'm single
Yeah,
out
I
on
know,
a
but,
mortgage, and then I go to work.
I know.
So it's all this. It's the working class thing.
Stop complaining, will you?
You went to Hawaii for a while, though.
With a head of hair like that, you got enough to complain about.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, man.
Lauren, if you probably don't know this, but Lauren is recognized nationwide as the best hair in hardcore.
This is absolutely 100% totally true, without a
Yeah.
doubt. I walked
Beautiful-
into the scene. with the
Beautiful
best hair.
locks.
Remember
Yes.
the nickname I used to give you? I feel bad saying
Lassie.
it.
Oh, but
Say
you,
it, go ahead. What is it?
Lassie.
I used to call him Black Hole Sun.
Black
yeah.
Hole
Black
Sun.
Hole from
Oh.
the song and everything.
Actually, no, I used to say that to him because
Yeah.
Richie, once upon a time, couldn't connect his facial hair, so he had the Chris Cornell thing on. So he tried to reverse it. This didn't work.
I don't remember that at all.
I remember because I got pictures.
Well,
Same
that-
way when you used to wear a do-rag. When you wore a do-rag once
still
for
wear
like
that.
5 minutes.
What are you talking about?
They had a crutch show.
Yeah, Richie has a do-rag. He has a do-rag under that
Yeah,
hat.
yeah,
I
it was
bet
great.
you. Oh, you got the
He got a
do-rag.
full head.
It still does.
But
He's holding
excuse
it down.
my kind of simpering bourgeois
Sure.
middle class upbringing. I would
Don't
get,
apologize
Don't
for your
apo-
upbringing.
Okay,
my friend.
you're right.
Take a look.
Yeah.
Direct your eyes.
But it doesn't look that bad. I mean, I gotta be, I don't know much about the hardcore scene. I mean, I've read about it, but I would always be like, if I go there, neo-Nazis are gonna skin me alive and everything,
Nah.
But it's just, I know you do Oi, and Oi is a movement, or it's a type of music.
We don't do Oi.
We don't
No.
We might have a
specifically
little
do Oi.
influence, yeah.
Well, what is Oi? What is Oi?
Well,
What is
I
it?
mean,
like we say hardcore is our style of music. Oi is another genre.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was more a political movement trying to unite. It's a group.
Oi kind of sounds like a rock and roll, a slow-paced rock and roll punk rock as far as sound.
Oh, okay.
And then as far as you're talking about the skinhead stuff, a lot of skinheads became involved with Oi music, and some were racist. But at these kind of shows,
that's not
these
gonna
are
fly.
self-regulating. You
Yes.
couldn't get away with that stuff.
Oh,
It's,
good.
it's
Okay.
literally a
No.
hockey game.
Yeah.
We'll police ourselves.
If someone would walk in
there
there with a neo-Nazi shirt, it would be bad, you know.
Bad for that person.
This kind of show is all love. It's like, you
Yes.
know, there's no room for that
Just
kind of.
having fun.
Yeah.
I would tell you
Yeah.
too. Like that's a big venue, but more than half the people in there, everybody knows each other.
Oh,
More than
I
half.
see.
That's
Yeah.
how
The
huge
people.
of a
It's-
family we are.
If you're not familiar with it, it seems very violent and
Right.
chaotic, but it would be compare it to like a herd of wildebeest
Like-minded wildebeest.
stampeding,
Right.
right? I'm sure wildebeest rarely stampede over each other.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
probably it looks chaotic, but once you're in it, it makes sense. If you're
Right.
in the stampede, it makes perfect sense to go run
Yeah.
with the
But
stampede.
to jump in the middle of
You
it
know?
and not belong there would be a mistake.
And I guess the media just takes that one anomaly, that one violent, whatever, and
Yeah.
then they play it over.
You know, at
and
one
over.
time it was
Very.
violent. It was a violent
At the
scene.
beginning.
It's yeah. It was.
It regulates itself. It weeded itself out.
Because it'll be
certain
closed
elements.
down eventually when you had riots and
Yeah.
pubs and
And it
whatever
does.
stuff,
Like
yeah.
in certain areas of the country, there's no more shows. There's no more venues because it got too violent. But eventually, a new band will pop up and cultivate, bring in new kids.
Right.
So it comes and goes, but definitely
and cameras.
we're
Just
in New
kinda
Jersey
changed that
now.
too.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
only in
cameras,
the
right.
early mid '90s where New Jersey shows were real violent.
Mhm.
You know, and-
That first show that I was just talking about was there was definitely Nazis at that show for
Yeah.
sure,
Mhm.
but it didn't deter me from wanting to go. It was more of a I was kind of drawn to the fear of like, whoa, like anything can happen here.
Right.
But then that was my first impression. Eventually, you realize like that's not their show.
yeah, they were
They're the
ones that
yeah,
didn't.
they're
belong
the
there.
outsider. That's
Right.
not their show.
Coming
This
in.
show's for everybody else, and these few every now and then a little a bully or someone who's trying to intimidate people will
Right,
pop
yeah.
in and try
Yeah.
try to
Just-
mix
Luckily,
things
yeah.
up.
Luckily, we had good teachers like the band he saw, Sick of It All. That was
Mhm.
like our teachers, and we could hear what they would say when they would see these types of people in the crowd, and it would make people like us feel more comfortable, you know. And
Yeah, these bands would regularly call people out for doing things
Right.
that
Yeah.
were
because
They
yeah,
saw as
that type of
inappropriate.
element was drawn to that
Mhm.
music. It's aggressive, tough music. They were drawn to it, but then lyrically, they had no business being there.
Yeah,
Those-
because your lyrics are much different than actually,
Yeah, I mean, they have their own bands and their own scene. You know, they could do that, but they show up once in a while if they like the bands. But they'll try to stay incognito, or they'll just come for trouble, and then hell will break loose. But it rarely happens. You know,
They're sifted out basically to
Yeah.
the compost pile or
they
whatever.
could do
just-
their own thing.
right,
For
right.
early on, it was a little confusing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the bands regulated the teachers, the older bands. They made it clear who should be here and who shouldn't. You know.
But this band's like reaches a big audience, and you even said because I just introduced you to him. You were watching their
Videos.
video on YouTube, and you told them his lyrics
Yeah, yeah.
grabbed you quick. Like,
Yeah, I got them. I could look them, but I actually could hear them too. I had this version of maybe Marilyn Manson or Korn, which I, mean, I don't even understand what the hell. I can't get one word, but I'd call yourself a more. I wouldn't compare it to Metallica, but anyway, there was meaning. It was kind of mellow. It seemed like you'd rock and hardcore to some of your music. There
so
was
Yeah.
melodic.
yeah. So a good question would be to ask for anybody who's not in the hardcore. So where do you draw your lyrics from? As you
In the
have-
beginning, it's a process learning how to write lyrics. It's a process, and in the beginning, what I tried to do was write lyrics that I think people would like.
Mhm.
And as I started to become a little more truthful with my lyrics and a little more vulnerable, that's the lyrics people started to respond to. So it's almost like you have to be willing to embarrass yourself to say something truthful enough that you'll be embarrassed about it. If you say something that truthful and you really mean it and you say it with conviction, there's someone out there that's going to relate to it and respond. So I kind of learned through the years that the more open I am about my life, about my feelings, the better the lyrics are. I feel better about them too, you know.
Mhm.
So mostly I draw my lyrics from life. I sing a lot about my family. I sing a lot about my wife and kids, which is kind of unusual for hardcore bands. But I sing a lot about like love,
Yeah.
being in love, and loving a family, loving being a dad. I sing about things that are a little bit off the beaten path for hardcore bands. Plus, you know, hardcore lyrics. You know,
Yeah.
like we all
how do you
have
craft
this.
it though? I'm interrupting. I'm sorry, but how do you craft together? You write the lyrics, but you still have to craft it with music. You have to collaborate.
Well, for the most part, Richie writes. He writes riffs all day long. He just writes guitar riffs, and everybody in the band writes music, but Richie writes like a machine. He's a monster. So he writes most of he writes most of the music that the band puts out. And what I like to do is take it and think of a blank song like a soundtrack to a movie that hasn't been written yet.
Ah, interesting.
So
Where to start?
what does this soundtrack sound like to me?
Right.
And try to like whatever story the music is telling me, I try to write about that. You know what I mean?
You got to fill in the blanks with your mosaic, so to speak.
Right. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's what I try to do is write lyrics that sound complementary to
Right.
the vibe of
it's good to
the
like
blank
write to the
song.
tone of the music. Like if before there's any vocals on it, what kind of vibe does it give you? And then go in that direction.
We've scrapped songs before, and like songs that I love the lyrics to, but I wrote the lyrics before I heard the music, and then I said, "Oh, I have these lyrics. Maybe I'll put this over
Right.
this," but it doesn't match up.
Yeah.
So the lyrics sound like one thing, and the music sounds like another thing, and they're just not mixing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So-
The alchemy and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
We have about 3 minutes. I quickly can I ask about straight edge? Isn't that you guys are straight edge? I thought you want sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but I guess not. Straight edge means you
I want
don't
rock
do
and
It's
roll.
like sex and
I
rock
want
and roll,
sex.
but
not excessive.
Well,
it's
a lot of rock and roll is good.
yeah. I don't know.
No, I mean straight edge is just you know, everybody knows what it is at this point. We're different, a different kind of straight edge. Like just by the grace of God, if there is a God, I just never drank or did any drugs.
Okay, just naturally.
I don't know why.
You weren't trying to pose
Yeah.
and do that.
I'm a bit paranoid. I think that's why I don't trust being around people. When I see a drunk person passed out,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a target painted on someone's chest. That's to me, it's weird. I'm too paranoid to be in that position. So maybe that's why I'm straight edge, you know. But I can't speak for everybody.
I was raised in a very strict religious house, and I had examples in my family of people who had horrific drug problems.
Oh, okay.
So since a child, I was paranoid also about ending up like that.
Scared straight.
So it
in a
was
way.
easy for me to just decide as a youngster, like I don't want to do drugs. Before I even knew I ever heard of the word straight edge, I just knew in my head I didn't want to be a drug addict. So
Good choice. Yeah.
that was and then I found out there's people who celebrate this, and I said, oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't
I'm
recommend
straight
this
edge.
though. I don't recommend it to anybody. It's a boring life.
Yeah.
Go have fun.
And my parents just told me don't do drugs. I said okay. That
Okay.
was it. I never touched drugs.
No, they asked you if you do drugs.
Yeah.
You just said no, and you lied to them. Basically.
I don't
No, I
believe he
didn't lie.
does it.
I was a good boy.
Anyway, you want to take us home, Lauren, and have them do?
Oh my God, we got to end
This was
this
too
already.
quick, man. We need a part A and B. I think.
I
Yeah,
know.
This was
we
like
do. Yeah, really.
over too fast.
You guys want to look at? Is there anything you want to plug? The new band, the tour, anything you want to say?
We got a,
website, go for it.
We have a split 7-inch that just came out on Fast Break Records with our friends, our band we looked up to for a long time, Madball. They did one song, we did one song. It's on Fast Break Records. You can order at fastbreakrecords.com. Just go to fastbreakrecords.com anyway and check out all the great releases they have. Check out the new Annie Up EP. It's dope. Get the new Eaten Alive CD, Masterpiece of Ignorance. It's amazing.
Podcast.
Post America Podcast. Me and Richie and our other guitar player, Chris Mavromatis, we do a podcast. We put out an episode or two.
You guys
a
should
week.
come on.
Yeah, you guys should
Absolutely.
come be guests. Yeah, we'll trade.
Oh.
We'll trade. Post America
I'll lift
Podcast.
weights before I go on.
There's no video. So you can just tell them you lifted weights, and that would be the same effect. So, but yeah, thank you guys for having us on. And come check us out on our tour, No Time to Waste tour, starting next Friday
Throughout Europe.
throughout Europe. No, starting next Saturday in Eindhoven, November 4th, throughout Europe. So if you're a European listener, come check us out on one of those dates. We'll be happy
With
to see you.
Knuckle Dust and who else?
Knuckle Dust, No Turning Back, and Strength for a Reason.
And I love you all, and we'll be back. And this has been Wisdom in Chains.